Hey, True Believers England team here. And once again, it jumped right in. Are we really 30 seconds in of live? Like, what gets captured? 30 seconds worth of us. I don't know. Anyway, hey, True Believers England team here. And we're going to be talking about the comic book industry as a whole. I thought about some things. One of the things that was brought up by Dan Slott last week has just kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. So I'm going to be talking about that. And by the way, as Eric Breen often says, and he's here to say it, and I hope you do many, many times, read back issues.
Read back issues.
Read back
Agreed.
issues. If you're going to be buying modern comics, give a shot to the smaller press. Didn't Doug Ernst do a comic? Go read Doug Ernst.
Soul Finder.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about some things that we've been noticing, some things that are, in my opinion, just indisputable facts that have been going on. As I've said many, many times, this is, I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And you know what? It feels good. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Look, one thing Dan Slott brought up last week was he said, I can point to many articles and many mainstream articles that put us down or put me down, as he actually named me at one, others as well. And
really,
the funny thing is that they never talk to us. None of these news places.
No, they presuppose what we think, because they would they would rather deal with the enemy they want to fight than fight the enemy they actually have. And the reason is if they treated us like three-dimensional human beings with three-dimensional human reasons for believing things, they would find more common ground with us than they would find hatred.
Yes. So basically, yeah. And it really just, it got to me. It got to me a little bit because basically what they did was they just perpetuated the lie until everybody believed it was true. And then you get people, Dan Slott's not the only person that does what Dan Slott did, where he will just completely brush off an entire group of people because he's going to believe this particular lie. He was not the only one that did that. And that just kind of burned me. Even when I would try to, like, for a little bit there, I was talking to Scott Snyder, not like big, long conversations. We had a few DMs back and forth. And I mentioned to him, I said, no, they're wrong. But he says, no, you are following people who, no matter what I told Scott Snyder, he would not entertain the idea that maybe, just maybe, these articles were dishonest, to say the least. At the very least, you would think, why don't you have us on your channel? Let us speak, because I'm constantly inviting them over here. Come on over. Why don't you have me over there? I'm more than willing. What is this new guy's name? Forced something or other. Yeah, go on ahead. And then you can actually talk to somebody who was there back then. And that kind of just stuck in my craw. But also, to bring it to modern day, it also shows something that's been going on. Now, the original title of this, I was kind of dared to change the name to Comic Books Are Hot Death right now. But the original thing is, have comic books lost their soul? Because a lot of times I don't talk about what's going on behind the scenes as much as I like to talk about what's going on inside the books. Increasingly hard to do as you're dropping them, I have to admit. Before we go on, because I do want to talk to Eric a little bit about this, I would like to say hello to Maranya. She's in the house. Pop Star Princess, long time. How you doing? Trusty, hello to Trusty as well. Fair warning, everyone, get your favorite drink of choice because you will need it. Probably so. There may be some Germans bombing Pearl Harbor at some point in time as well.
Agreed. This is going to be a long one, folks.
Undead Quinn is saying it's called Dishonest Press. The easier the lie to tell. Yep, it is. But the thing is, there could have been. Hello to Aloise, I see is here as well. To Helium, what's up?
But the saddest thing though is they don't know they're lying. They genuinely believe all this crap.
Yeah, okay. The thing is yes, they do know they're lying. You're wrong about that. They know they're lying because they know they aren't talking to the people. And when they do that, they know that they are being dishonest in their reporting. Now, Eric, you've been around since the beginning as well, watching the YouTube channels, and you are very much, even through your own advice to yourself, you began to pick up new books. And one thing, this video was originally titled, "Have Comic Books Lost Their Soul?" Now, when I mean that, there's always been politics in comic books. There's always been messages in comic books, but there was something to them. And I know it's an intangible. I know it's something intangible. But as I was saying over at the Disney Channel, it's almost like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this one, Eric, and please elaborate if you have any thoughts on it. It's almost like modern day DC and Marvel staff feel like we should be obligated to get their books.
That's assuming that they even want us to at this point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like customers in general, not just us as customers.
Okay, to answer your question, have they lost their soul? Okay, you said comics have always been political. Yes. Comic books have always had a message. Yes. But now that's all they have, by and large. The thing you're talking about, that intangible, I know it's been a while, so you may not remember what that was. It was called a story. Remember those? They don't, because that's not important anymore. As long as you can, you have to know.
Let them finish.
They have to make sure that you know the identity of every character. Yeah, their politics, their sexuality, their gender, their race. That supersedes what those characters do within the context of the stories that they're no longer telling. And that's a major difference between then and now. Now, I'm not saying that's every book, but a lot of comics that you read today, there's no there anymore.
So when you're saying that there's no there, are you mentioning like the meat and potatoes of it, or do you find it more face value?
Yeah, I'm just giving you a couple quick examples. Remember when we did the Captain Marvel retrospect? Yeah. The Death of Captain Marvel. We did that again today. And I challenge any comic today to get within an area code of the greatness of that book. I'm talking, you can take the best of the big two. It's going to pale in comparison to that. Hell, just pick any storyline from back in the day, and you'll find there's so much more substance to it. Let's say Denny O'Neil's Iron Man. Jim Rhodes becomes Iron Man. Jim Rhodes becomes the first black Iron Man. It was just Tony Stark's best friend, who happened to be a black guy named Jim Rhodes, had to take over because Tony was suffering from alcoholism and couldn't do his job. And then Jim Rhodes becomes Iron Man with his own set of problems. He can't make the armor work because his boss is too drunk to tell him how to work it.
And we didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, and it went on for 2 or 3 years. And you don't get that stuff anymore, because now the only focus of that would be Jim's race.
Okay. All right, Dalton, you had something to say about this.
Yeah. To piggyback off of what Eric just said, and to add my own hat into the defining the intangible thing. Okay. In regards to the comics have always been political, comics have always had message point. The difference between the messages and politics of yesteryear and the messages and politics of today is way back in the day, the messages and politics of yesteryear were a three-dimensional thought experiment. Most of the politics you had in the comics of yesterday were propositions, not declarations. I.e., we want to help the reader or get the reader to think about this particular idea. We don't want to presuppose that we already have the right answer. And that's the difference between the politics of yesterday or the politics of today. Before, it was, we have a three-dimensional conversation about this. Let's discuss the parameters of this. Let's figure out let the reader figure out what their position on this is. Whereas now, the modus operandi is, we already have the right answer. Here is the right answer that we already have discovered. And if you deviate at all from this, then you are invalid and therefore will not be admitted to the discussion. Secondly,
there's a second.
Yeah. Secondly, in regards to the, story and character thing, and of course, Eric gave a lot of really good examples. The difference between then and now is in regards to that is, before, people told stories about characters because they thought the characters were valid and needed to be treated like three-dimensional people. And the same is true of the reader. We don't care about Iron Man because he's Iron Man. We care about Tony Stark as a person, and that's why you often see veteran fans of comic books, when a character does something out of character or a character does something stupid, they go,
"Okay,
what the hell are you doing?"
I'm going to cut you right here, because I think you bring up something that's very important that we did address once before in a different video, and that is that we did care about Tony Stark, and we did care about there he is. We did care about Tony Stark as a character. We care about Steve Rogers as a character. We care about the people within the suit as much as we care about the suits themselves. One thing that that Eric and I were talking about on a different video here is that they have gotten rid of supporting characters, and I believe this is one of the things that has made Marvel Comics, especially DC Comics, is following suit, but Marvel Comics especially, is that they lost their supporting characters, therefore they lost the human relation. They lost that human element to the story. Now, hold on, Dalton. I know you're gearing up, but there's 3 other people here, all right? But the thing is, that's one thing that that we've noticed before in a past video. If you don't have that human relation and you only pay attention to the super, then how is it anything but a shallow story? Okay, now Eric, if you want to say something, go on ahead there, Mensa.
Yeah, getting back to my core point.
Are you going to address what I just mentioned?
Yeah. But
okay.
That all is symptomatic of the larger, the larger overarching problem of, they treat stories as a means to an end rather than an end in itself. They don't care about the worlds and the people in them. They care about, let's use this thing as a means to whatever end they happen to prefer that day, whether it's a political end or a moral end or so whatever abstract end they want. It's just, this isn't a world and these aren't people living in those worlds. This is a piece that we can use to our as a means to an end rather than an end in itself.
Okay, all righty. So, but that one thing is what I was talking about. The human element is gone from modern comics, and I think that's one of the reasons why this lost its soul. Now, Venkman, you've been quiet on the subject. Do you have anything to say about it, or are you? I
forgot the question, sir. It's been like 40 minutes.
There you go. Yes. So good. So, one thing I lost it here, but somebody was mentioning that that they've gotten a lot worse since they've been off the newsstand and kids stopped reading them. And it could be a weird situation where it stopped being for the general public, and then it started only being for the adult comic book reader, because they knew that's where their audience was. And now it's only for these kids that have come from the Tumblr and such like that, that ended up not giving a shit about any kind of continuity beforehand or anything along those lines. Let's say Computer Bots is saying, oh no, it's like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to serve Marvel and DC their divorce papers, and looks like they won't be getting any more of my assets. He's talking about me in particular. Just to give you a heads up, I went to the comic shop the other day. I took every Marvel I had a pile of books this big still waiting for me there. I'm so far behind. I took all the Marvel out of them, including my Daredevil. That was so freaking hard to do. And I said, I want every Marvel comic off of my pull list. And I realized that meant Daredevil. That meant Amazing Fantasy. I think both of them was good. But no, I'm not going to be paying for the opportunity for them to be insulting me anymore. But also, I am not going to be giving them free publicity anymore. That's just not going to happen. So I've got a video it's going to be releasing tomorrow and it over on Old Man Comics, which talks about just that. I may do new book reviews, but more than likely they're going to be the independent comic books and so forth. By the way, if you have not read Maniac in New York, check it out. It is a very, very good comic.
John Oding said he's a new comic reader, asking if there's a good way to be able to filter SJW crap comics.
Here?
Yeah, we do reviews, but also look at independent stuff. A lot of the independent stuff you'll find it has nothing to do with the big two, Marvel and DC. Marvel and DC have become super woke. It's almost like they're out woking each other.
Okay.
But you can
go ahead. Sorry.
I'll just do it quickly.
All right.
If you want to filter that stuff out, read everything before 2010.
That's one way to do it. If you want new comics, there are a couple of names that you can avoid. Vita Ayala is one of them. John Ridley is another. Eric and VENKMAN or Dalton, if y'all can remember any of these names.
I can.
Yeah.
Two names, Marvel and DC.
Basically, at this point, yeah. And here's an interesting factor to factor into your financial decisions here, kids. Your average comic in today's day and age is between $5 and $6 now. The average trade paperback is between $12 and $15 usually. So you can pay $5 for a 25-cent. You can pay $5 for a barely 25-cent worthy story if you like, or you can just wait and get an entire 8-issue or 10-issue story that is a well-rounded and three-dimensional story for the price of about 3 modern comics.
So I wanted to answer that question. I know Marvel and DC, that's a pat answer. Reed Venditti.
It's also true, though.
Reed Venditti, Reed Tomasi. They're both usually they are both very reliable writers. So you're going to get story, you're going to get adventure, you're going to get everything you want from a comic book. And by the way, if you haven't read his Hawkman, read Venditti's Hawkman. Read Tomasi's Super Sons.
Read Jurgens' Batman Beyond.
Who?
Jurgens, Dan Jurgens.
Dan Jurgens, yeah.
Blue and Gold's been pretty good so far for being a new issue.
There are some out there who are still trying. They're trying to give us our classic characters the way our classic characters need to be written. And they are out there. They're out there doing their best, but they are in a world of crap right now because it seems like Marvel and DC want to signal their virtue quite a bit. Hold on. It is something. Goodness gracious, who is the Mr. Miracle writer? I forgot his name. You guys mentioned it to him. Stay away from the writer of Mr. Miracle. That was horrible.
Is that crap. Brandon Easton?
Was it? I don't remember his name. It sucked. It was so. I read John Ridley and Mr. Miracle back to back, and I had to do a freaking live stream rant about it because of it, the horribleness that was there.
And of course, if we ever even need to say it, stay away from anything written by Brian Michael Bendis circa about 2010 onwards.
You see what you did, Marvel and DC. You even made one of your own supporters. I love comics. Want nothing to do. I actually used to make videos. I used to make top 10 videos, 10 video comics from Marvel that doesn't suck. It is increasingly harder and harder and harder to do. Now I come up with 2. I could come up with 2. I've mentioned their names before. I will not mention their names again. No,
because
I'll do a bad comic beatdown. I will do a bad comic beatdown. If Marvel puts out a crap book, you better believe there will be a bad comic beatdown. But I will not be doing any more positive reviews of Marvel because they support the bigotry that is Dan Slott. They support the bigotry that comes from their artists and writers. They support the bigotry that comes from the pen of John Ridley and Vita Ayala, and it's done. It's freaking done. And mark my words, it is exactly that. They see gay people as one thing. They see black people as this one thing. And if you dare to step outside of their box, if you dare, then I swear to God, give me just a moment. If you dare to step outside of what they say you are a token to the conservative. You are paid for your opinion. There's no way you could have actually come up with those thoughts by yourself. And yes, we do have a representative of one of those right next to me here.
Yeah. Speaking as the gay crippled occultist here. No, fuck you. My opinions are my own, and if you think otherwise, then you can screw off.
Yes, we want to temper the language, man. Come on.
I get one now too.
Okay, Eric, what's up?
Okay, you said that you canceled all your Marvels, to which I would say, yeah, about time.
Thank you. Yes.
But you did that as a result of the crappy online behavior of one of their creators.
Yes.
Okay, now let's go over to the distinguished competition, where they put their intolerance and bigotry and racism for all to see on the printed page.
In the book, yeah.
So to me, because I said, if you're not paying any attention to, if you're not on Twitter and you don't pay attention to what goes on in the culture wars, and you're just reading Fantastic Four, then you go, okay, well, it's not going to make me forget about Lee and Kirby, but it's not, overtly offensive either. You can't say that if you're reading John Ridley or Brandon Easton or one of these guys that put it into the book for the audience they're trying to create, which, newsflash, ain't nobody on this panel. So that's, and as much as I like Venditti and Tomasi, I look at in the last year, Tomasi's been kicked off his titles to make room for Mariko Tamaki. Venditti gets put on I saw a reading of it last night. It's a good book, but shouldn't he be doing something more important than a continuation of a 43-year-old movie?
Considering he's not going to be job right now,
right? Yeah. So, and Dan Jurgens, like I said, I fully expect Blue and Gold to be canceled as a result of his tweet the other day, because
what
they
did
are
he
that.
Say?
He spoke out against Biden's handling of the Afghan debacle.
Yeah,
and DC is petty and vindictive enough to take that book from him for that. I'm absolutely convinced of that,
because you are forbidden from expressing that opinion, though.
So, I said, if you're reading an independent book, even if it is quote unquote woke, it's contained in that author's universe he's created for that book. Marvel and DC, do it to characters that have been around for even longer than me. And yes, they had comic book characters even before me. And not to mention all the other nonsense that goes with that. So even though DC still employs a couple of writers that I really like, I don't know. At this point, I'm not sure I would even buy a Venditti Justice Society because of all the crap that comes out of that company to go with it.
It just sucks because we just covered the Batman 89 and the Superman book that came out 79 on Isle of Puppets and reading that stuff, but it's like those are I would say the Superman is better than the Batman.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But it sucks because neither one of those I got the feeling where I was being like told I was straight white male and I'm evil and all that crap. It sucks because those are by writers that actually are doing good. But
we're an easy crowd, by the way, at this point in time. All you have to do is give us a straight up story, and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, this doesn't have any heavy-handed message. This doesn't have anything that I don't. We are such an easy mark right now, this crowd. But the thing is this is one thing I could say to computer bots. Also, we're a bit more sensitive on the other side. We will see it sometimes where it isn't because we've been hit and we've been attacked. Computer Bots is saying he respects me for my thick skin that I've had over the years. I've always been able to separate the artist from the art. I don't care what you say on Twitter so long as you don't put it into the comic. But the thing is, it's in the comics now. Yeah. The whole thing. Doug Ernst is a Moon Knight villain.
and that's speaking of Moon Knight. The example of this that I at least keep coming back to is back in the day, I think Englentine and I both got shit because despite the fact that Max Bemis is an absolute pillock, which I can use British slang because it doesn't trigger the algorithm. Despite that,
and please stop with the language on my. There you go. Okay. Anyway, like I'm not at some point in time going to lose it myself, but there you
go. Despite the fact that Max Bemis is an absolute pillock and said all sorts of things about how his audience was invalid, he was, for the briefest of moments, good at writing Moon Knight, and therefore neither Englentine nor myself gave a bollock about what he said on Twitter. The only time it became a problem is when your worldview translates directly into the book. And let's also be perfectly clear about this. There have always been antisocial, contemptuous, belittling writers in comics. Steve Ditko, I love the man to death, and I love most of his characters to death, but he was the closest thing you could imagine to a right-wing SJW back in the day. He genuinely was a Randian objectivist kook, and he hated a lot of his readership, but it never made it into the book, and so we can still read, his original run of Doctor Strange, his original run of The Question, and all that business without it ever coming up at all. The difference is now because, once again, they view art not as an end in itself, not as something that's valid on its own.
I got to bring something up. Do you notice anything in the Robert Kirkman books?
Not really in the books, I've noticed.
Okay.
It shows.
John Edding is asking, do we notice any of the SJW stuff? Spider Slayer's back, by the way. I guess. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I disagree on Superman 78 being the better than Batman 89. Great artwork story. Superman 89 is a fantastic story and garbage art. But both should have been. I do have to agree with the art on Superman. I didn't care for it too much, but I like the book itself. Hey, Doug, just stopped by. You're talking about me as a Moon Knight villain. Yes.
Doug, get your butt on here.
Truth. Yeah. Get your butt on here, man. And you're OG as well, so might as well. And tell us a little bit about a comic book that we know we could go to without any in it, any of the SJW stuff. I believe it's called Soul Finder. So you could come on and tell us about it. Bemis lost the plot on Moon Knight very quickly, so that I think that was something. Nowadays, though, I think what ended to happen is the part of our old group that were basically standing up for the classic heroes and villains, and that's what we were doing. We didn't like what they were doing to our classic characters, and that's what we were trying to say. But nowadays, there isn't that. There isn't the customer rising up and saying anything, and I think it's I think they've kind of gotten a foothold. Hey, Doug, what's up?
Hey, man, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just saw your industry is steaming garbage or whatever the title was, and I was like, I'm checking that out.
I got to give that up to Venkman, because I originally called it his comic books lost their soul, and he was like, you should just say the industry is hot death. Okay, there we go. Yes, and you were actually. Do you have that issue?
Yeah, I have that basically whole run. I kept I kept the ones with me in it, or when I was like introduced, or Ernst, I guess. And then there was a couple people that asked me if I would like ever autograph it for them, and I was like, yeah, if you send this to me, I'll autograph it.
Oh, that's awesome. that is really cool. My thinking is this: if they ever do the official handbook of the Marvel Universe again, or if there is I think there's even a Marvel Wiki.
Yeah,
I think they should put your character in that. And if it's possible for a reader of one of these websites to do that, if anybody wants to, who can alter Wikipedia, I think they actually should give the Marvel villain Ernst a page.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
Fill out a freaking backstory now. Why not?
Yeah.
For the longest time, he didn't even, I don't even know if he has a first name yet, but it was just Ernst. That's all it was. And it came out, I want to say like 5 months, maybe 6 months after I did a handful of videos on Max Bemis's unprofessionalism, just like hammering him. And so I don't know, it's quite a coincidence that the guy who says he used the book to like sort out his personal problems, he didn't do much plotting in advance. 5 months after I'm ripping him to shreds for unprofessionalism, there's a Nazi character Ernst guy in there. Interesting.
Doug, I want you to cosplay as Moon Knight and then tag that guy. No.
I think if Doug's gonna cosplay anything, he's gonna be Soulfinder for some reason. I've noticed the art has a bit of a resemblance. Was that planned?
Well,
actually, no. So initially, I told Tim something along the lines of Scott Eastwood. As long as he was handsome and he had sort of looks like that would be kind of cool or whatever. And then I sent it over, or we explained what we wanted to Dave Dorman, and so Dave Dorman came up with the cover that you're seeing now, which a lot of people say looks a little like Don Johnson in the 80s, which
it does.
He does.
A little bit, yeah.
So yeah, it was nothing to do with me in my days when I actually had hair. So it's
I would do a variant cover with you in the white coat.
Well, if with the Moon Knight show, if they actually put Ernst in the show, I will reenact some scenes on my YouTube channel with the exact dialogue, and I'll splice it with Moon Knight.
That would be awesome. So yeah, I do though. I respect you. We're friends, but I have a bone to pick, and I think since I've got you here, I really have to address this. I seriously have to address this. Honestly, will you stop giving me freaking heart attacks with this crap, man? Come on. What the hell is this? Are you kidding me? First, this isn't as bad as the first time I saw you do this. You're eating spaghetti, and next to it is a G.I. Joe #1. That's a $200 book, man. And there's literally a drop of spaghetti sauce right on the edge of the plate. And I'm thinking, you did that on purpose, man. You did that on purpose.
I did a follow-up.
Jaws theme music.
Click in there.
Oh my God! Can't you just read Modern Marvel while eating a pizza? You can slop all over that. Holy crap! I
did. There was one video where I didn't realize the cheese was the part that was hanging over the edge, and there was like a comic that was like right beneath, and I was like, oh. Yeah, as long as the crust is like there and it's just the crust, I'm okay with that. But Yeah, there's been a couple where I stupidly sort of had the cheese over there.
So you actually do make. So was that spaghetti sauce right on the edge? Did you plant that?
There was probably one. There was one video where people gave me like a really hard time, and then after that, I did tease them. But I don't normally like go out of my way to like mess. But I think it was like you and just some guy in particular. We're like, we're just like, why are you doing that?
And I know
like,
that's $200 comic.
What have you done?
Yeah, that GI Joe #1 is worth $1 or $2. So yeah, the first time I saw it, I was like, the freaking hell.
We
I don't know why.
What you should do is just edit the Jaws theme music in every time you do that.
It's your book. Do whatever the heck you want to. I just think it's funny that as a comic book, as someone who I love comics, I had that reaction. It's your book. You could literally just go, oh, that was good.
I promise that I do not turn the pages with the hand that I'm eating the pizza with.
The grease. I was wondering that.
I have the pizza folded in my right hand. I'll flip with the left hand, and I typically will scoot the book way over to my left as I'm sort of like flipping through it, and I'm very careful. But I'll probably make a mistake one of these days, and if it happens on video, I'll take my lumps. I'll
commit sacrilege against the.
Okay, so Computer Bots is bringing up. You did a video on the Dan Slott stuff.
Yes, I did one last night. And,
I will check that out. I've been watching all of it. It's just that it's kind of like we're back to 2017, except for I'm not doing the infighting thing. I'm done with that kind of crap, but here they are again.
I love that he the thing that was just so weird that he zeroed in on you, and I'm like, of all the people to go after for being some sort of like beyond the pale, like why would he pick you? You know, like I'm just like
but that's why, because when you know, not to open old wounds, but when somebody like Yellow Flash used to be says something stupid, that's playing into their narrative about how toxic people are. But when Anglantine or I says something reasonable, that actually has potential to deprogram the narrative. So you have to vilify the reasonable people, otherwise the threat narrative doesn't work.
I just said I don't want to deal with any infighting, so let's not get anything going.
I said used to be. I'm not saying he's like that anymore. I did specify he is no longer like that, but he was once an idiot.
Okay,
can I speak, teacher?
No.
No, I was just gonna say, because you're the first person to do the interview with Jimmy. That's why he went after you.
Yeah, I guess so. And once again, I think Jimmy's a great kid, and I think
check out his channel.
He's a great guy. It's perspective. You see the word kid. He's a great guy, and he does interviews. I believe you're going to be on his channel, Doug. He told me.
Oh wow! News gets around.
Well, I literally said, "Hey, congratulations on the subs about an hour or two before this." So, and he goes, "Oh yeah, and yeah, Doug's going to be on," and so
Dan Slott,
I don't know if it's around, but you know,
I have to be careful how I say this. So I watched his video, which was very good, and he had mentioned some things. You know, the whole thing deals with Comicsgate and CG or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't even know like Doug was CG or whatever." So I had a private conversation about the history, I guess, of you and I both we're on the same page, basically. We'll just put it that way, in terms of what it was when you and I and like Richard were in a DM room with Captain Cummings, and what it is in 2021.
Yeah, the grassroots versus the cult of personality, basically.
And it's like it's the difference between, is it a set of principles that are guiding people, or is it a yacht club? And if it's a set of principles, I can about customer service, bringing books out in a timely manner, solid storytelling, solid art, I adhere to those principles. I always have. I'm the exact same guy I was in 2017.
Yeah.
If it's a yacht club or a wannabe biker gang where I got to get a tattoo on,
yeah, then no thanks.
Then that's different.
Yeah, there is something that was brought up with all that, and I mentioned, of course, during the debate that it will beholden readers to the comic book artist and writer. That I do not buy into, and that's I guess that kind of thing is what you're talking about. This was very much, when we began this, it was very much a loose set of ideals, like you said. I think I chased them off. Sorry, Dalton. Yeah, but that's what it is. We wanted kind of, or at least I did. I can't read your mind, but it seemed like we wanted to make sure that we weren't the same as the other side, but yet there was problems we wanted to point out. And if anything happened, it I don't know. I don't know how to voice what I'm saying for the first time.
Yeah, my thing has always been that once you create a hierarchical structure with a president of the club, and there's rules of the club, and there's people that belong to the club, and there's a whole list of people that could be added or subtracted at the will of whomever, then it's different than because you actually give people like Dan Slott an easy target that way. You can't just attack an idea about giving people books in a timely manner. Like if I just represent, if I'm trying to go after the ideal of giving people solid stories and solid art and great customer service, there's nothing Dan Slott or anybody can say about that. But if they could peg me to anything anybody else says because it's some sort of group, this club, then it gets, it just is weird. And like you've said in the past, it's like, why? I'm pretty sure you were saying, like, why should you be held accountable for what the guy next to you says when you're your own person? Like, I don't want to be constantly held accountable for the guy next to me when it's like, I didn't say that. I didn't do that.
Yeah, which is one thing we never had, even though Richard blew up so quickly, and he was seen as the face of the group. He was never, and he would often tell people, never the leader of said group, and it wouldn't work that way, and there would be no hierarchy that way. What would it be? Sub count? How would we even go about picking a leader of this particular situation? And will we listen anyway? I mean, we all were we were all a group of people who, as you said, were on the same page, but we were also very different.
Right.
You and I always saw you and I, and of course you guys who've been around forever can once again correct me if I'm wrong on this one. But I always thought that you and I were the I don't know if reasonable is the right word about it, but more calm.
I've seen my critics have said things like, "You're boring," and I was like, "Okay, well, you know what? Boring gets his books out on time. Boring." Like there's a lot of good things about Boring, and I'm okay with that within a certain context. And it's like you said, we were very much about embracing our individuality.
Yeah, but we were less sensationalist, I guess, is a better way to say it. I think you less than I, even, because I've never heard you go on a freaking maniacal rant the way I can sometimes, but I think that's part of what I'm saying. When back in the day, it was you and I were far less sensationalist. I think then you had Richard, and then Captain Cummings, who was just. I always said it would be like the way they saw us were we were the four guys, like say in Game of Thrones when they were on that rock during the and all the ice zombies are chasing after them and they're all fighting. And it would be on the high point, that was Richard. And then off to the sides, you have me and you, and we're doing our little bit in the battle. And then coming into the sky, jumping into the middle of the zombie horde would be Captain Cummings with a shirt that said "F you." You know, so we all had our different sensibilities and such when it came to that. Hello,
and my thing was always, well, one, I didn't want to lose my job at the newspaper, so I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
I did say it.
What's that like? Because Marvel and Disney don't do that.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things where it's like I knew guys like Dan Slaughter out there, and they're just waiting for you to say the one thing that they could use against you for the rest of your life. And so it's my thing has always been, how do I still get my point across? How do I say what I want to say, but not give them the ammunition that they so desperately want to use against us?
Yeah, that is a hard bit.
You know, you get back at them, you get their book, and you spill pizza sauce all over them.
That's one way to go about it.
Dan would pay extra for that.
I want to lick the sauce.
ComputerBot saying, I mentioned on Sean James's channel. Sean James is also another YouTuber, not 100% comic books, but he's interested. The current state of CG, that they're acting like the SJWs. I mentioned that this is one of the reasons why you two left. It just wasn't for me anymore. What happened afterwards with War Campaign, it was a lot. That was something I definitely didn't want to, but I was actually out before that because it turned into tweet of the week. Rather than talking about the books, it was more about Twitter than anything else. And so I kind of separated myself a little bit. And as some of us kind of receded from it, it really did become about, well, we're going to do the IGG. And since I have no comic book coming out, it just, Comicsgate was no longer someplace that it was no longer the group that I wanted to be a part of. It not anything like, oh, I don't want to be a part of them, grr. It was just, I have no point of being there.
People that are dictating like rules, like, where did that come from? Like, I don't, you know, it's like, in my mind, it's just like, well, I got things from Kickstarter in 2017. You know, it's just like, all these rules just start coming out of nowhere. And it's just like, okay, well, this is not overarching ideals or principles anymore. This is literally a rule book that's being written. And like I said, I'm the same guy I was in 2017, and when in terms of books, I try to live up to those ideals. But you don't see me going around telling people that they can and can't buy from certain people, that they can and can't go on certain channels. I don't dictate what people can, what other adult men and women can do. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Back to the leader thing, I remember talking on Weaponized Nerd Rage's channel, and we talked about the whole leadership thing. I said, okay, well, if we did a hierarchy, does that, and I said, does that mean I get to sit? Now, of course, he's beyond any kind of sub count I've got. But I said, does that mean I get to say, you know, what you do with your channel? And he goes, no. I said, of course, you know, that's exactly the reaction you should have if somebody tells you.
Me personally,
go ahead.
I was gonna say personally, I didn't get involved the whole YouTube thing till around 2018. It was right after that whole. I still call it the hot dog debate because that's what it was. That's all I remember from it. Is just you guys talking about hot dog analogies, and then you whistling.
I do not even remember that.
That's how long it's been. 4 years, man.
Yeah,
almost 4 years.
Everybody remembers the milkshake day, but nobody remembers the hot dog debate, I guess.
I watched it like a year ago. That's why I remember it.
Okay.
But, anyway, the whole Comicsgate was going around, it's big stuff, and I never joined groups because there's a lot of times you could join a group and it's like, yay, I'm part of a group. I'm like, what does that accomplish? Unless, you know, something positive's coming out of the change, maybe. And even then, it's like, are you really doing anything at all to help? If you're just another person going this and cheering on somebody. But my real point is that I looked in on that stuff and I saw what was going on, and I said, like, wow, is this supposed to be anti-SJW or pro-SJW? Because when you're using the same kind of bullying tactics as the SJWs do, how are you different? You can't say I am anti-SJW and then bully people to use the same tactics. that's what turned me off to all that crap. I mean, I buy independent books, you know. I bought from Tim Lim. I bought from Adam Post. Adam Post is a big Comicsgate person. I bought from him. I will spend money on people that will put a book on time, you know. But it's few, and the thing people I saw were getting bullied because why aren't you back in this book? You know, I thought you were Comicsgate. That crap pissed me off.
That is something that I said was going to happen.
I buy what I want to buy. If I think your book sucks, I'm not going to back it. I don't care what you say about it.
I remember when what was the hashtag move the needle, right? I remember one guy bought Max Visaggio's book. I forget the name of it, but it was obviously it was a story about. No, it wasn't the Dazzler. It was this. It was a like a Vertigo book or something like that. I'm forgetting the title of it, but it was weird and it was interesting for the first couple of issues. And this guy says, "I move the needle," and he got ran over because there was a Max Visaggio book. But some of us jumped in and says, no, it doesn't matter what you buy with Move the Needle. It matters that you buy, you know, you're showing it because you want to tell everybody that I'm the person you should be listening to, Marvel. I'm the one that spends money. DC, I'm the one that spends money. You should be listening to my opinion instead of the blue hairs. What was that? The one that went after DNC, the cosplayer chick or something. Renfamous, yeah. Where are they now? It's just they would listen to people like that. Why? Because cosplayer, we're literally showing you. And
drama.
each one of us at the time, the lowest of sub counts, the lowest of viewerships were me and Doug at the time, and we still had thousands. And so why are you not listening to these people who are literally showing you pictures of the comics they buy every week? Hundreds of dollars worth sometimes.
I want to quickly point out, I'm not anti-Comicsgate. I'm just anti-bullying. I don't care what you call yourself. You're a bully, you're a bully.
Okay.
Get off.
And hello to Miss So, by the way. Get off. And yes, okay, Eric, by the way, if you guys feel like you do want to jump in and say something, if you remember something, by all means, please.
I was going to, but then I forgot. So I had to comment back around. You brought up a good point. It's something that, you know, as someone who spends 40 hours plus a week in a comic shop now, one thing I've noticed, I've said for years, they were chasing away people like us. Who used to go every Wednesday and go, I'll take this, I'll take this, I'll take this, all the way down, you know, from A to Z. And we've been forsaken in favor. Now they agonize over how to get those blue hairs you're talking about to buy that one book because that's the best they can hope for out of them. And I you know, it used to drive me nuts until I realized that that's by design, unfortunately. But I you know, from an economic standpoint, it makes zero sense. But from a building the audience of tomorrow, it makes perfect sense.
Right. Oh, Maranya is actually reminding me the hot dog debate is the who's more important, the customer or the comic book creator. And my point is it's the customer, period. And with a comic book creator right next to me, I will still say that because if nobody's buying Doug's book, it's a hobby.
Well, the original point
was all it is.
That the comic book companies should be like hot dog vendors, and they don't care who buys them as long as people buy them.
Yes.
And then it morphed into, you know, Tastes Like Mustard and Bigotry, the Mark Russell, Harley Quinn issue about the hot dog vendor. I mean, it just took on a life of its own.
Yeah, that's right. It did make its way into comics, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, that's where friction. I second everything that you said. So as someone who entered into the realm of the creator, my heart will always be with the consumer advocates. It's like, that's what I did for years on my blog. That's what I started doing on YouTube. So if you ever see me abandon the idea that the customer is king, then slap me. Just I don't know, start throwing tomatoes at me or something, because the customer always needs to be.
Well, even if you are modern day CG or whatever, actually, I think you should, with any person who's wanting to put something out there, I think you should apply the same thing to somebody who's on IGG like yourself, Doug, that you would to Marvel and DC. Now, here's the thing. I get it. And a lot of people tell me in the chat anytime I bring this up that a lot of IGG is late, and a lot of IGG has problems that maybe Marvel and DC doesn't. The unforeseen does not remain unforeseen 5 times in a row. That is one thing I would stop taking. If it's the same excuse every time, it's not unforeseen. They're just not doing what they need to do. But I guess the big sin would be, if you're going to be late, make sure that they're talking to you. Make sure that they're giving you good communication to the point where you still feel that your money is well spent. If you don't feel good about it, and if they give you crap for wanting to pull your money out, don't feel obligated to put money into their next project. It's the same thing.
One of the reasons why I left Indiegogo and went directly to Iconic Comics with Black Tide is because people were so soured on late books, on people that had excuses after excuses after excuses. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm in an environment where people are just disgusted with late books or getting bad books a year after they ordered them, then I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to be the one guy who's like, here's my book. You could order it on a Monday and you could get it on a Wednesday or whatever. And so it's one of those things where it's, again, I always try to put my mind in, I put myself in the shoes of the customer and be like, okay, what's going on? What are the customers thinking? What are they feeling right now? I want to put my finger on the pulse of the customers and then act accordingly.
And thank you, sir, for that. That is see, in that way, people are going to be looking and going, okay, well, now I know I could trust Doug. Tim Lim and Mark, I do believe they've earned that same kind of trust. Now, granted, I did the same thing, and I know I pissed off a lot of people because I put a whole bunch of weight onto both DNC and on EVS for their first books. I said, these first books, they have to be perfect. And I know I got a lot of crap for that, but I still stand by it. EVS truly needs to be Johnny on the spot with everything, because whether he likes it or not, that group will live and die by him. So if he's not on time, if he's not being perfect every time out, as you said before with the group in the past, he's giving them ammunition left and right. And I don't know. I think I just think that's a little extra weight if you put yourself at the top of the pyramid.
No, you know the Mark Wades and the Dan Slotts and the Gail Simones and all these people, they got the knives out. They're just waiting for the opportunity to jab it into your back or whatever and say, see these guys. And so if you got the spotlight on you, you need to do your best to not have self-inflicted wounds, I guess, or, unforced errors. And one way to keep people off your back is to get your books out on time.
Yeah. Computer bots everybody brings up manga whenever we're talking about how bad the comic book industry is. Just start reading manga. I still haven't made that leap. Also, I do like the line about I look like a Florida man doomsday prepper. So thank you. Rhaegar saying, I think I remember EVS and Englantine on Ricardo Law. I didn't know who you were then, but I recall thinking EVS was being a bit unfair. I don't know if Ricardo Law still has it. There was a debate between I was secondary to that. It kind of became the Englantine EVS show. I think it's because we were the stronger of the personalities. And by that I mean no disrespect to Unranked Chevron or John Malin, because it really started with Unranked Chevron. He did a video. It was called "Comicsgate is Dead," and then I saw the video and I read the comments and I started tweeting people, and I found out that at this point in time, War Campaign was really coming and being a thing. And so I was hearing all of these complaints about what was going on, because once again, I pulled myself out. I really wasn't a part of the whole. I still had pride in it because it was a group that that we had started, and I did think that the fact that we now had people who were making comic books, I thought that it was actually going to be two different groups. You would have people like myself and DNC, who was also doing comics, Captain Cummings, who were going to fight the good fight, so to speak. And then you had the people who would be like All Caps. They made the comics that people like us wanted. And that's how I actually, at the time, thought. So I still had a lot of pride in Comicsgate as a group. And I was told, I found out all of this stuff, so I made a video myself where I actually invited people onto the channel to voice their concerns and their grievances with what had become Comicsgate. And I got a DM. It was actually from Weaponized Nerd Raid. Hey, Rakita Law wants you on a channel to discuss the future of Comicsgate. It's like, okay. And it was based on Unranked Chevron's video. It actually wasn't based on mine, but since I had done that big thing, I was invited as well. And we get there, and it's John Malin, and it's EVS, and then it's me, and it's Unranked Chevron. I was like, okay, well, we're going to talk about what we think or where we think Comicsgate should go, which, like I said, I actually had a vision. And the way it would go is it was basically, now we have two groups marching in sync. Was I wrong? So Rakita does his little introductions, and then Ethan, woo, right out the gate, man, right at Unranked Chevron. Oh my goodness gracious. I was like, see, before that, there was time for about 2 weeks. Yellow Flash wanted to get me on something. What was it called? Rat battles or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about here at all, Eric or RDV? Or it was some sort of like basically where they would bring two people on and they would just yell at each other.
I do remember it, but I can't remember the name. Was it called Debates?
No. But the thing is Yellow Flash for a while was just going after me. I'm sleeping and my phone just goes, say again?
It's a Ricardo Laws channel.
No, it was on somebody else's.
Sure?
But my phone is just going, nah. Are you hearing this? Yellow Flash is drunk and he's talking about you. So anyway, he wanted to get me on this debate show where basically it's two people yelling at each other, and I forgot what it was. And I didn't want to go on it. I thought there's no point to it, really. So I didn't want to go on it. And yet I was like, oh my gosh, here I am, and I'm on that show, but it's a whole different thing. And now it's with Ethan Van Sciver. And we actually did start off talking about what we thought Comicsgate should be and what we thought it was and where it's going and all that kind of stuff. But by the end, I think it became the Anglitine EVS show, and we were just jackassing each other. Seriously. In my opinion, it falls to him and I just throwing barbs. It's not 100% like that, but I can do better. And I've got confidence that EVS could do better as well. Check it out if you want. It's a little bit of
if I
history.
remember correctly, didn't you essentially just say that once the pros entered the equation, and not even passing any judgment on them, but they have a different set of incentives in terms of their behavior than the customer.
Yeah.
And so they're always going to want to, I don't know, have the playing, I don't know, the board game, the board pieces set up in the pros' favor because they're pros.
Well,
and so there's going to be a tension between pros and the customers, there should be like a line of demarcation or something along those lines.
Yeah. And yeah, that was my point. And as I said, it would make the people it would make the readers beholden to the comic book artists and writers, because in order to be a good member of Comicsgate, you would have to buy the books that these artists and writers were making. And eventually I did see tweets that backed that up. I'm not saying everybody did it, but I did see messages. Well, why are you buying Marvel and DC when you should be buying whatever, you know, Cyberfrog and so forth and so on? And that just isn't the way it should have been. It should always be Doug Ernst trying to cater to Slitherclaw to get him you want Slitherclaw's money. Therefore, you have to tell Slitherclaw why your book is worth his money. And unfortunately, that was what I said. Also, I said that what you would have is a whole bunch of artists and writers come in, get their money, and leave. They don't really give a crap about the central ideas that started Comicsgate, or started what became Comicsgate, I should say. They just know that this is now where to get money, because the first, it really did seem like if you got to a certain level, you were getting 100,000. You might actually get $1 million to back your books. So this was a place to go to make money. And we did get that. Now, eventually Rooster Teeth, Rooster something or other, they put their stuff out in Walmart. Eventually people did get their book. I'm very glad for you for that, but wow. Did that take a while? Anyway, Marania's saying it was called Internet Blood Sport. Thank you. I completely forgot. The voice speaking was the one who mentioned the pre-milkshake incident with Cummings on the boards. You need to do the true history of the customer rebellion pre-milkshake. Well, really, yeah. What happened that I know of anyway is, I know, Doug, you and Dan Slott always bumped up, if I remember, before the whole YouTube thing. Am I wrong about that? Or
Dan and I have butted heads since, I don't know, 2000, probably around 2010, 2011, when I started reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man, and he didn't like my reviews. So he followed me across the internet on every single comics website and got me banned by all the moderators. He would just complain about me. And then he kept pushing me everywhere else. And finally I was like, I have nowhere to go. And I already had my blog, which was on politics for the most part, and like movies and Hollywood. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to just really start talking about comics here, since Mr. Slott got me kicked off every single website. So in some bizarre, twisted way, Dan Slott sort of created me in terms of my critiques of the industry.
There you go. So everybody had their little ins and outs with a comic book writer or something, and we were all making videos. And I noticed Captain Cummings. Like I told you guys before, this used to be called the Grove of Eglantine. It was just going to be me splurging about whatever political, comic books, movies, whatever. And I started noticing all of this stuff that was going on in comics that people are bringing up, and I started reading, and I'm like, oh crap, I've been out of comics for a while. I read about comics. I read the history of comics and such like that, and I'd pick up an occasional here and there, but I started reading, so I started making videos. I saw a guy named Captain Cummings with a weird freaking hat. He was on another guy's channel who wore a freaking Captain America mask. And I thought, well, these two weirdos are kind of entertaining. Captain Frugal and Captain Cummings. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. And I made a couple of videos. And then one day, both Captain Cummings and I did a video where we tore this, I think they were called NERDSERKER. They put out a video about Superman being the social justice warrior and the illegal alien and all that kind of stuff. And they did a little history of comics and how basically it was very, what do you call it when you're keeping people away? Divisive. And I was like, hold on there, Haas. And both of us actually made the same video for about 10 minutes. And then we went off in our own directions. And I thought that was really weird because we didn't talk to each other. We didn't really know each other. And so I saw that and I thought, okay, well, I made a video saying because I noticed there was this new kid who did an America Chavez review. He actually said this was inspired by Eglantine. I thought, yay, I made it, woohoo! And it was DNC. So I did a video called "Are We the Same? We Are Not the Same Person." And that was to show that there were a bunch of like-minded people out there, that we all had, that, as you said, Doug, the same values. And a lot of people responded to that, because one of the things that that was mentioned, I mentioned, you got to go check out Captain Frugal's channel. And I said, is there anybody out there that I missed? And I swear to gosh, everybody's like, Doug Ernst. I was like, okay, wow, holy shit, I gotta check this guy out. So that right there, I'm not saying it created, but it actually, I think it helped people realize that there were a large group of people that were like-minded, that we actually had the same ideals when it came to the comic book industry and everything. And through that, the group was born. And DNC took the freaking hell off. I remember Captain Cummings and I traded a couple of messages like, what the hell is that? What is he drinking? You know, where can we get some of that jet fuel? Because
that was before the first apocalypse too. So like he was basically doing like DNC was doing like 3 or 4 videos a day or something crazy. And then I think Captain Cummings was doing like maybe like 4 videos a week. I don't know how many you were doing a week, maybe something similar. I don't know. I was doing like 1 video a week.
Gail and I were separated, so I was always on YouTube. I had no other life outside of YouTube. So yeah, that's my life there.
But once that first apocalypse hit, like everybody's channel was like going up at a really great clip. And then that hit, and then just boom, it just cratered for I don't even know, well, like weeks or a couple months or whatever, and then it started slowly coming back. But that showed just how much power YouTube has in terms of if they want to flip a switch, they could kill your channel in an instant.
My channel has not recovered since 2 years ago. I have shown my analytics to a couple of people, and it has never left at 18,000.
We found out why, because you couldn't find Tim in a crowd at Disney.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Now, if you look at my videos, my early Captain Marvel, my early Star Wars, and Alita Battle Angel, they were getting like tens of thousands. I think a couple of them have like, I think Alita might have like 200,000 now. I don't even know. But then YouTube did something with it was another Captain Marvel, you know, at whatever algorithm change, and overnight I went from getting thousands and thousands of views to I had to struggle to get like 500 views. And it's like, it's clear that if you get sucked up into some bizarre algorithm, that it's like a black hole. How do you get out of it? It's hard. Yeah. Oh, Joe Rogers bringing up the people like the DNC. This has actually become the history of Comics Gate, and or at least the group before Comics Gate that became it. But Joe Rogers saying that everybody loved the comic book review in the car thing. I remember my heart freaking broke. I was the guy who did America Chavez reviews. That was my niche. And I would spend 12 hours on making sure, you know, we got this pop reference, got to get this in here. Okay. So it was really a production. Check them out. I think you'll enjoy them. And then DNC put his out, I think the day before I put mine out, because mine just took a little longer, because he literally opened the comic book up, put it on his lap, and started talking about it. And I remember after 12 hours of work, it got 500 views in the first, and I would pray for 500 views in the first day now. And I remember I was like, son of a bitch, what the hell do you have to do anymore? Yeah, it did destroy a little bit. Back in the day when Eglantine used to talk about and ramble about Thailand and Thai food, good times.
Thailand and Thai food, man. Yeah, I don't talk too much more about it because the reason why I had my midlife crisis is no longer a thing. I mean, I would not change it for anything. I loved my time there. I loved living there. I liked everything about it. But the thing is Gail's back, and I'm a lot happier because she is the love of my life. So, yeah. But the thing is that while I was in Thailand, I did have a girlfriend, and I did actually end up getting married, by the way. I didn't. I thought it was an engagement. I did not know it was a wedding, but I did end up getting married there too, religiously, not legally.
To learn more about this, check out the 500 videos you did.
Yeah, check out there's thousands of hours talking about this.
Always, at the end of live streams, as always, he's showing pictures of.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah. But no, I do not talk about that because, well, you know, Gail doesn't like to. I'll talk about things like, I'll talk about the beauty of Thailand. I'll talk about the great things I did. I do leave out a hell of a lot of details, of course, just to make it more palatable. But yes. Alrighty. YouTube apocalypse. You can think, you know, the last one was the Vox. That was the one that destroyed my channel.
Mazda, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I have never recovered after that.
That was another bad one.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to talk about this once, and then if you bring it up again, I will. If this is anything like Spidey Slayer from the past, I'm done with the trolls. I'm done with the infighting, and I have no patience. So I'm going to say this once, and this is going to be the end of it. Superman was not a social justice warrior. A lot of people get social justice warrior. They get it mixed up, especially now. They do not know what it is, especially people on the opposite side. Superman fought for justice. And oftentimes what they're talking about is, of course, you would have the evil landlord who was hurting their tenants, or you would have he would do union busting or stuff like that, or fight for the unions. A social justice warrior is somebody who sees people only as their demographic. This is something that's been lost because they've grabbed, hey, I fight for social. No, it's not somebody who fights for social justice. And by the way, putting any term in front of the word justice, it actually negates the justice part. Justice is do good, get good, do bad, get bad. That's justice. Saying it needs to be modified for a certain group is not good. That's prejudice. And when all you are is about modifying that word for certain groups, I don't care who it is. It could be for white people. I don't give a crap. But if all you are is for modifying that word for certain groups, then you are a social justice warrior. Superman never would do that. So don't give me the shit. And you're welcome to join the conversation, or you're welcome to step off. That is the last warning. I do not tolerate trolls on my channel anymore. One thing that happened, one thing that came out of the bull crap that I've been through since that damn debate is I tolerate no trolls on this channel anymore. So, by all means, please have a good time. All righty. Sorry about that, Doug, Eric, Dominic, and VENKMAN, and everybody in the chat, but that absolutely has to be said. Okay. Let's see. I have refrained from asking panel what political parties the heroes belong to. I don't know. What would you say? You're a big Spider-Man fan. What would you say? Pick a hero and somebody you know the party they belong to. But Doug, you're a Spider-Man fan, so what would you say?
What party Peter Parker belongs to?
Yeah.
I would. Over the years, he's made various quips that sort of indicates that he, I don't know. He's kind of all, I don't want to say all over the map. Mm-hmm. I can make an argument either way in many senses. So, I don't know. I don't want to pigeonhole Peter Parker into a party.
Okay. How about you, Eric? Okay, VENKMAN.
I was gonna say, up until at One More Day, he pretty much was like, he wasn't either one. He was in the center more, the way they wrote him. But now, obviously, with the way Marvel is handling things, now he's, you know, completely going to be like, oh, I'm for the people, screwed, you know, this, you know, person, Orange Man bad. It's gotten to the point where he never really got into politics back then.
Right.
He didn't. But now, because these people are putting propaganda into him, now now it's like your question, is he right or left? He never cared about that before. He cared about take care of Aunt May, you know, stopping the villains.
Now
he didn't have time to go vote.
I was gonna say
he was out there voting. He's out there, you know, fighting super villains. That's what New York was. The fact that New York has any time to go vote for mayors or anything like that is a joke.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Eric? Is there a hero that you would put and you would go, this hero is that? But I want to make it harder for you because you know a lot about comics. No Green Arrow.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here, man.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back.
Okay. The Spider-Man question real quick. The day he was somewhere in Asia fighting in a bar fight and asked if it was racist that he was beating them up. That right there tells you what side of the aisle he belongs to now.
Oh.
That's it. Sorry, Doug.
Well, let's pretend like Marvel hasn't made a comic book since 2012.
I don't have to pretend. They haven't.
Okay.
Okay, Hawkman, but he wasn't from Earth, was always kind of portrayed as a conservative because he was the conservative foil to Green Lantern's liberal. Wally West was portrayed as a conservative. They were very upfront about that. I would say in the 21st century, though, the only time there have been any Republicans in comics at the big two is when they needed him for a storyline. Now, in Civil War, Tony, Reed, and even T'Challa were considered conservatives until the Civil War was over. And then Tony went so far left, he invented a car that ran on water that he wanted to give to the people. Now, at DC, Decision 2008, they assigned political parties to the characters. And in Superman Lois's case, they were on opposite sides. Lois was a Republican, Clark was a Democrat. Now,
that actually doesn't make sense considering Clark is a Mid-Eastern or Midwestern, excuse me.
But again, if there's not a story where it's needed, they're all Democrats.
Right.
And the Lois Lane thing was, she went from a Republican in 2008 to having a computer with a sticker that said this computer kills fascists. So, like I said, only for storyline purposes are there any Republicans in comics. You
can't count modern day comics on this because there is no nuance anymore. It's done. Yeah.
Especially Tony. Tony went from being industrialist to being like anti-war.
How about you, Venkman? Do you have somebody who would you go, you know what? I think this hero is that.
Well, I used to believe that Captain America was but he was a patriot. Now he's Hydra. But he's communist. He came out. He was fascist.
Yeah, I would have to say Captain America should be libertarian or at least conservative because he would believe in the Constitution.
You know what I always hear though? I always hear about the people bring up, well, what religion are they? Because we know like Daredevil is Catholic, and they're like, what would Spider-Man be? Would be or Doctor Strange obviously is an atheist, That's always because I always thought that was weird when people bring it up. But you see the article is like, well, this was Spider-Man and they're conservative. Like, to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a good question if you're going on to, but it's like gets you into the weeds real fast.
How can you be an atheist when you fight alongside of or end up fighting gods?
Yeah,
it is kind of weird.
If I throw something in, you were talking about Captain America a moment ago.
Yeah.
One thing that for decades that they were really good about was not assigning a political party to him because he represents America.
Yeah.
And you can be a patriot on either side of the aisle. Well, at least you could be up until recent history.
No.
When he was asked to run the storyline that Stern and Byrne run. He was asked to run for president, but he ended up declining because I said he did not want to take one side over the other because he believed in America as an ideal, and that includes everyone.
That's a great way to believe. Rhaegar is saying clearly Peter Parker's a libertarian, Guy Gardner a Reagan Republican from Jim Sorensen. Slitherclaw is saying, I'd say Democrat based on location. That makes sense. Same with Lois Lane. That's why I was thinking, considering where Superman and Lois are born, you would think they would be on opposite sides. Old school Democrat.
Army brat.
Frank Miller made Daredevil Catholic, and let's see, Greg Rucka. I don't even want to bring up him. I voted for Lex Luthor. Says Slitherclaw. I sent you links on who would vote Democrat and who would vote Republican. Take them with you. Okay, that'll be a whole different video there.
Now they got rid of instead of saying what national or what political leaning is Captain America. Now they don't even tell you what his orientation is, because now because before we thought like, well, he was straight, he likes Sharon Carter, but now it's like, I don't know. I'm waiting for it though. Because we already have, we have multiple Captain Americas now. We don't have just one anymore. We have to have one of each, sexual orientation now, and one of race and gender probably soon.
It does amaze me that they listen to the what are they called these days, shippers.
Yep, tumblers.
Because if you go online, you could find in any two male characters in anything, you can find some sort of picture or some sort of anything.
Tumblr's bad.
Yeah, they're just out there. It'll come to what Vita Ayala said. If there's even a little bit of doubt, I'm going to make them queer.
I came across that. So I don't. You know how disgusting Tumblr is. I came across Captain America and Steve Rogers and Tony Stark were married, and Tony was pregnant.
Okay, guys. All right. Let's see.
You opened that can of worms.
No.
Ever notice how all comic characters have gone to fight the devil in hell, but God in heaven never show up? Yeah. If you mess. I think that's because nobody minds if you insult the devil, but if you insult their God, then you're in some trouble.
See, so what I just said is back in the day there was elsewhere where actually there was a female Tony, so it was okay back then. But now it's just two males. One was pregnant. That's what's going into your comic books today. Male pregnancy. Just wait for it. You're gonna see it.
Well, now if they redid that She-Hulk cover that was parodying the Demi Moore cover with the beach ball.
Oh no, it's Bruce.
Are you serious? Hold on just a sec. My wife actually hates this more than I do, and I don't like it. It's the race swapping and such. Rocketeer making a comeback on Disney Plus with David Aiello producing and circling to star Ed Rickort.
I was waiting for you to see that.
Okay, and here's the reason why what we normally talk about and what a lot of people will come up and say, okay, well, you just don't like black people. It's just stupid statement. Rocketeer's a white character. There are so many original black characters you could be doing, and they refuse. More to the point, if you point out that there are so many original black characters you could be doing, you are called a racist, and that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for you to be called a racist when you are saying, not that, I don't want you to do black characters, but you are literally saying, you're damn near almost on your knees begging for original black characters to be put on the screen, but they don't want to listen because they know that, you remember 30 years ago, there was this movie that kind of has a cult following. Now we want to do it, but completely different. We don't want to do the character. We want to do our version of that character, but with his name. We don't want all that charm, the stuff that you loved about it. We're mainly just, on the movie poster at the top It'll be kind of curved like this. That's all we really want as far as that character is concerned. And that's why people get ticked off, because you don't give a freaking care about the character itself. You don't give a care about the fact that people have been reading these freaking books for 40 years. You just care that it's got a name, that people like it, and that maybe, just maybe, they're going to give it a watch. You know what? I think we're getting tired of that too. There are a ton of original Black characters waiting to make their big screen debut. Or maybe their solo debut. Hell, y'all still haven't done that Storm movie? Let's see that. Nope.
I want a Chappelle Show skit on this. They would rip it so bad. Just the whole Rocketeer, and like I said, and I hate to be the people, and this is what I quoting people normally says, but I finally agree. And they're gonna have the Black guy is a villain, guy in there. He's gonna be evil. He's gonna be a Nazi, and he's gonna be wearing a red freaking hat.
Making a movie with an original Black character does not advance the culture war that they are fighting.
Apparently so. Sorry to drag you into this, Doug. Everybody else is used to my rants and being loud. I know you haven't been here for a while, but that does bother me. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up. It's about an hour and a half in, and I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Doug, thanks for coming on. Where can they get your book?
Oh, you could get the Soul Finder series at iconiccomics.com, both Demon's Match and Black Tide. And then the third book, Infinite Ascent, will also be on Iconic Comics either later this year or probably early next year. Depends on when Matt Weldon finishes up and we get our colors done, all that sort of stuff.
All righty. Saying figures you'd stream a Doug when I couldn't be there.
We have one more question to ask you before we go off. After you die, who's going to take over writing your book?
Hey, I know. Mike Barron.
I killed him.
If I were to die tomorrow, Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini would be my
Hey, somebody's got an answer. Thank you. Okay, so
you want to give Doug the context to that so he doesn't think
I had Mike Barron on it. I had Mike Barron on it, and I was wondering who was going to continue the legacy of Nexus and Badger and all the characters that he's created. I just worded it wrong. So I asked him, when you die, who's going to be taking this? I just worded it wrong. I have conversations. I don't do interviews, ladies and gentlemen. I suck at them, as a matter of fact.
You got to go watch that interview and just watch the crickets.
It was like, what the fuck? Yeah. But yeah, it was very strange. But there you go. There you go. To contribute to the channel, please go on over to Ko-Fi. Links in the description below. Thank you very much to Maranya for sharing that out. Thank you to RDV and for Eric to give us a couple of more avatars that were on here. Do you guys have anything to add? Because y'all were really quiet for a while there as we were talking about the Comicsgate history. But you guys are part of Comicsgate history.
Yeah, but these people have to put up with us every stream.
Yeah, that's true.
Doug's it's rare to get him on. I think the people would much rather listen to him.
I was eating dinner
than us. I was reading Patsy and
I felt bad. I was just showed up in the chat, and then I thought I was just gonna be listening to you guys, and then all of a sudden I found myself on here. So I didn't want to impose, I don't know, my opinions on your.
You're always welcome, man. You're always welcome.
Anytime we can listen to someone less boring than English.
Well, Mr. Ernst, I asked you to come on so I could read back issues.
There you go. Yes. Would it actually be Tim Lim or a random Asian in Disneyland? Yes. By the way, I told that story, Doug, and I have not been able to live it down. How you and I were looking for Tim, and I went, "Oh, here he is!" Ah, gosh darn it. Yeah, that was embarrassing, but there you go. I wear my flaws on my sleeve. I'd much rather listen to Doug, even if he was always on. Hey, there you go.
Greatest part of every history segment.
There you go.
Who gave that guy a wrench?
Really?
Yeah. He won. He won the wrench on our Jeopardy. Doug, come on, play Jeopardy sometimes. I think you'd have a good time. We'll make it Spider-Man centric.
Cats with wrenches, soon to be dogs with wrenches. Man, it's just scary.
Yeah. So anyway, once again, guys, thanks for listening to us rant. It was a lot of fun. And I do like talking about the history because I do believe that this group was formed from a good place. And I really am not appreciative of what Dan Slott said to my friend Jimmy. And this is his story. Once again, check out his channel. He does interviews with comic book creators. And Doug, from what I understand, I hope I'm not locking you into something you said maybe to. But please check out his channel, sub if it's your cup of tea. And don't forget, check out Doug. I think you're doing better than I am these days anyway, but also check out his comic book once again. If you can leave the link in a comment on this, I'll pin it so people can find your book. And thank you to RDV and to Eric, as always, and everybody in the chat. Thank you very much for keeping the conversation going. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. You kids have a great time.
Good night, kids.